Network Next Gen, the podcast, inspiring design industry hustlers. All right, we're at NeoCon. It's 2023, just for contextual reference. Here we are in the social hub space. We have Michael Ditullo, creative director of, and you say Kirei?
Kirei.
By Carnegie. And we have Giulio Masotti, founder and CEO of Woodskin for Carnegie.
That's me.
So that's awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm going to have you each kind of talk a little bit about your background and introduce yourselves a little more. So Michael, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so I'm an industrial designer. So I like to describe what I do. If you think of an architect designing a building and an apparel designer designing fashion, I work on literally everything in between, from this watch that I'm wearing to the baffles and wall tiles for Kirei. And I've worked on a little bit of everything in my career. I worked at Nike for about 8 years, and then I've worked on electric speedboats for ARC, watches, like I said. And for me, I love working in this category because I'm getting to design things for other creatives. And so it's a real challenge to design something thinking of how an architect or an interior designer might use it in a unique way that maybe I never thought of. And that's why I love working in this category.
That's so interesting. And you said challenging in a good way, though, right? Like in a
Oh yeah, I think as creatives, like, we love challenges, right? Otherwise, life's boring for us. So for me, it's like the more parameters, like, I'm designing something that has to appeal to an interior designer or an architect, that an installer needs to be able to install easily, that a building owner will want for performance reasons, and then a tenant will eventually enjoy. And it's like thinking of those 4 different people that have different parameters is like, that's where the fun is.
That's so awesome. I love that. All right, cool. Go ahead.
So I'm an architect by training, actually, although I became an entrepreneur after developing the Woodskin process about 10 years ago at this point. And so from there, try to help fellow architects and designers like me to tackle and challenge and solve the complexity in surfaces in architecture. We do that by developing softwares and ultimately having reproducing this very special material called Woodskin. My before that I founded another company which has a funny Italian name called Mamma Fotogramma. We do stop motion animation, actual special projects for corporate clients. But also, most recently, we branched out and created another company out of Woodskin, which is called Materia, and we work with we do product engineering and, again, software, complex things. So my field is really complexity, and I help other professionals to bring to life complex projects.
That's amazing. Wow, you guys. Okay, cool. Well, let's kind of get into sustainability and product design a little more. Let's talk about innovation, specifically with acoustics. So how has acoustics changed in the recent years?
I think acoustics has massively evolved in that it's gone from something that we had to educate architects and interior designers about to something that they expect products to have. And it went from something that was added into spaces as an afterthought. We've all had the experience of being in like an echoey restaurant and just kind of suffering. You think of and being in a large open office and just suffering through that. So I think people are much more sensitive to that, and they design for it versus correcting after the fact. And then and you mentioned sustainability as well, and I think there's also this increased expectation that that products just need to be sustainable. And I think both Kirei and Woodskin being under the Carnegie brand, it's a 70-year-old company that was basically founded around kind of sustainable practices and a B Corp. And so I think it's cool to be working for a company that sustainability isn't an initiative, it's like a part of every conversation, because it's the whole reason for the entire company to be.
That's
so
amazing.
I think both sustainability and acoustics have gone on a similar path where it was kind of like this thing you had to teach people about to now it's part of expected, and now it's like for both of us, it's like, what else can you bring to the table beyond just performance?
I love that.
I always think about acoustic, having learned about acoustic fairly recently in a way. My background is not in acoustic, but so I see that and I look at that like I tried to put myself in the client's shoes, and there is a very large component which I think it has to do with the subconscious. As you know, in the past it was the same path, and the clients and the architects became slowly more aware of what lighting could do for spaces. But that's much more visible, something you can really see, at least. With acoustic, it's different. Of course, you can hear it, but you can't see it. So it's something you don't eventually grasp or fully understand at first. And it's no one's fault. It's just something you can't see. So I think, and when I personally, you'll let me know what you think, but when I come back much more willingly to a space that gave me a pleasant acoustic experience, although I might not know it. So I will choose a restaurant, an office, a space to concentrate and focus subconsciously, because it gave me a positive experience, and very oftentimes it is strongly linked to acoustics. So even here, we're inside the NNG space, close to a cafeteria, and in here we're having a pleasant experience, and I see it outside. It's like so crazy, and I want to be in here right now, not out there, and it's because of acoustic, mostly.
I feel like you're right. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you just reminded me, Julio, like when I worked at Nike, the original cafeteria there was a dome.
Okay.
And a known thing where if you were sitting on one edge of the dome, you could hear the conversation from the other edge of the dome, like it was whispered in your ear.
Wow.
And you had to be really careful.
That's scary.
What you would say in there, because you never knew who was sitting on the opposite side of the dome. And so I didn't eat in there, but just like you're like, I don't want to eat in there.
It kept
what
you
if
away.
I say something, right? And so these
goodness.
spaces where you're like, that's just not acceptable anymore. And I think like you said, like lighting, we see it, wall surfaces, flooring, we see it, chairs, we sit in them. But I think now that we've experienced so many bad acoustic spaces, people are more sensitive.
It's true. We do events where the conversation is so important, right? And we had an event where the acoustics were just terrible, and it honestly changed the event environment. And now it's something I think of first. I think of acoustics and sound over anything else, because it can be make or break in situations like that. So I think it's important.
We've been home for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's we're used to our quiet space. I upgraded my microphone game at home.
Yep.
Right. My space is all acoustic panels at home.
That's so true.
Something you guys as native English speakers might not realize is how difficult it is for someone who is not a native English speaker to make sure you're understanding everything. And it could be a really big handicap for people, for instance, in workspaces, which of course are fortunately more and more international and so on, to keep up with the rest of the team. I often have calls with people from the other side of the world. They say guys, I mean, I don't understand what you're saying, because in your room, it's not you, but in the room you're taking the call from, it's unbelievably bad in terms of acoustic. And so I think it's very, very important also to think as the acoustic as some a field that is meant to level up also all the differences in that respect. So it has to be very inclusive also.
That's such a great point. So let's switch now to Carnegie. I know you guys love Carnegie. We love Carnegie. We've always loved Carnegie. How is Carnegie Acoustic Solutions solving for the changing landscape of acoustics? We've touched on it a little bit. So I do think the pandemic impacted it. I do think these big spaces we talked about are vital. Is there anything else, the changing landscape, anything you can think of in relation?
Well, I think specifically for Carnegie, because it's a constellation of brands, so there's this portfolio of solutions, right? Woodskin is really different from Kirei, really different from some of the acoustical wall coverings or draperies that Carnegie offers. So I think it's great, thinking of kind of being client-centric, if I'm an interior designer, to have one stop to go to where I can get a lot of different surfaces and a lot of different treatments that are totally different. And I think that, because I think the way acoustics works, I remember I went to this space, this huge, I won't name the firm, it's a huge interior design firm, and I went into their space, beautiful space, glass, concrete, metal beams, and they had 4 PET baffles in the ceiling. I was like, that ain't gonna do it, guys. That's not gonna do anything. And so I think to be able to use a Kirei product in conjunction with a Woodskin product, in conjunction with an acoustic drapery, it's how all the products perform together to make the space better.
I agree.
Here might be my entrepreneurial mind that is speaking, but I think that also, like as an architect, like if I had to design, I mean, when I have to design a space from scratch, I really want to have at my disposal a toolkit, a series of elements that are not just out of catalogs that I have to, turn pages and pick a product, but ideally, any architect would like to have, a very broad design grammar at his disposal that helps him to really like freely design a space, focusing on the function of the space and the problem that it has to solve for the client. And of course, if you want to achieve that in the best possible way, you have to be able to move freely across, what this design challenge is. And that can only be done with the products, solutions, technologies that adapt entirely and fully, ideally, to your needs. And that's something that I see that it's really present in the Carnegie offer, whatever that is, a fabric, a wall panel, a wood skin panel, a Kirei product, because there is this intention and focus on being able to customize and serve the client's need first, which I have to say I don't see often enough around.
I love that.
Can I add
That's
to that
so
too?
good.
Because
Yes,
I do think that's a cultural thing that Woodskin, Kirei, and Carnegie have that's a little bit different in that we don't just tolerate customs, we actually like seek them out. That's what we want to do. And I kind of feel like, and I think you probably feel similar, like when I'm designing Kirei products, I'm more of just like designing the back of the Lego box. Like I'm showing you like, this is what you can make with this, but please like actually bring us something different because we would love to work on that and play with that. And I think kind of creative to, creative to creative interface,
Absolutely.
That's so fun. I love that analogy. Also, that goes back to you like challenges, right? As a designer. So that's where that comes in. I love that. Okay, let's talk sustainability. So today we're really focused on sustainability. How does sustainability play into the process of designing and delivering this next generation of acoustic products?
Well, I think with sustainability, I'd like to just, I want to ask architects and designers to read the fine print because you have to be careful sometimes. Like there's a lot of PET products out there. Ours has a minimum of 60% recycled content. A lot of them have less. Some of them have just started introducing recycled content. So I would just say like really read and make sure like this is a truly sustainable product. Last year we launched something called the Air Baffle with Nike that the baffle is actually filled with post-consumer recycled Nikes to increase the acoustic performance. I think it's just, again, the way we're thinking as Carnegie being a B Corp, we're always trying to think like, what can we do to push it? Even if it's just a little bit. Like this year, we got on the back of our samples, we always did stickers on the back of the samples. This year we brought printing in-house. We have a huge, massive, high-definition printer to print complete panels. And somebody on the team was like, hey, couldn't we just actually print on the back of samples so we don't have to have that sticker? And we're like, oh, wow. Like, just little things like that. We print, on the back of the sample what it is, and then a QR code so that we don't even have to send a spec sheet, so you get a digital spec sheet.
But that makes a huge difference if you think of that multiplied. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah, because we literally had a warehouse filled with spec sheets, right? And so to just not be shipping, one, we're not all that paper. Two, all that oil from shipping all that paper around. And three, it's just a better customer experience because like, if again, I'm checking out of something from my design library and I could just, bam, get the spec sheet on my phone.
There. That's amazing.
Great.
Wow. That's really cool.
It is. Agreed. Well, at Woodskin, when in front of clients, often I always tell them like there is about sustainability and of the correct, question to ask about sustainability. It is also about what you want to hear and what I can tell you. So what they want to hear is that we have all the certifications and there is stamps and there is little green logos, and of course we do have those, the one we have selected and the one we believe to be the most impactful ones. But at the same time, I always try to tell them what our true sustainability values are, And ultimately, we decided to pursue this business model that is fully made on demand, and to make sure that, I mean, of course, is a scalable business model. So on the business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense for us. But at the same time, it maximizes our chances to, bring into the world only the necessary. And that, I mean, when you do the math, it's by far the most important thing, not important thing, the most impactful thing that you can do if and when you have the choice to say, okay, I just produce as much as I can, selling it through marketing, or just make sure that I produce what the clients want, and then I sell it to them through a customization process when they need it, where they need it. So. And of course, on top of that, there is a lot of optimization made by software. I mean, we do really our best to optimize and to maximize optimization, regardless that is for environmental purposes or for, in general, for efficiency, which could be anything. As Michael was saying, it's about saving oil, paper, anything. And ultimately, I think that the general scheme of doing this, it's the one that impacts the most.
I love that. That's
great.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've worked with a company that really makes things on demand, and as an industrial designer, it's a real mental shift. Earlier in my career, I designed this beautiful mahogany-topped AirPlay speaker, and it was gorgeous, a lot of very Eamesy looking, won a lot of awards. And I remember the CEO took me out to the warehouse one time, and he's like, "Hey, Michael, you see all those boxes? That's that thing you designed for us." And it's not selling. So those are people's Christmas bonuses if that doesn't sell. And so this idea, which is, as an industrial designer, you're always making things in the thousands and multiples. And with both of our brands, things are made on demand. So we're literally making what people want on a one-to-one basis.
That's
and then
great.
Because it is made in-house, it's not made at a contract manufacturer, we're nesting things, or if there is extra on a sheet, we're okay, let's make sure that can be cut into samples.
Yep.
And so just finding little homes for all those little things, and that doesn't show up on the little lead label or whatever, which we get all the labels,
Totally.
but
That's
that
above and beyond that.
Right.
That's amazing. I love that. All right, guys. Well, here's the question. I feel like everyone gets that. They're like, I don't know, but let's try it. Okay. What's next? What do you see as the next big things in the evolution of acoustics? So I know as designers, we're always thinking what's next, what's forward thinking, what's next. But for acoustics specifically, what do you see as being kind of the next?
I think there's a lot of different materials on the horizon. I think people, by people I mean designers, we're people too, I guess, but designers will want just more options. And I feel like it's been so relegated to here's these boring rectangular baffles.
Yep.
And I think we launched at the show, it's called the Tessellate baffle and pendant, and it's this very kind of triangulated cylinder that catches the light. And so it's just how can we create these kind of products that are needs and make them wants? When I was at Nike, we'd always talk about exaggerating function. We think of Nike Air, right? You're we're just exaggerating the function visually and turning this functional thing into a visual benefit. And so I think this industry, I'm kind of seeing that shift to functional things into beautiful things that are statements.
I love that.
That's very interesting, actually. Yeah, I'll use that in my next product development. 100%. Thank you. So no, but I really agree. I'm a material and fabrication process freak. So I've always thought that at least for what it concerns us, innovation lies at the intersection of new materials, and by new material I mean composite material, a way to put together different materials with different performances to achieve better results, software development, and process development. So we are definitely working in that realm to bring new products to the field, where products for us oftentimes are not necessarily a product with a shape, but more a realm of possibility and a perimeter of parameters that you can play within if you're a designer. So we will bring you new materials and new characteristics, and then together at a table we'll sit down and say okay, this new system can be this product, and this product, so that we can kind of offer a very broad offer. But at the same time, I think that especially recently, like it is clear how much faster software moves. It has always been the case. So hardware moves slow, software fast. But and so we try to really. I think everybody will increasingly try to, kind of upgrade their products with more software packages and software components, and that will slowly change the landscape of acoustical, not just acoustical, but architectural products in general. So it's very exciting. I'm very excited to see what's next, as you were saying. We'll see.
That's great.
And I think to do all of that in the service of the client, right? Like I think all these tools and materials are to make the interior designers and architects' life easier to create a better space. And I think for us, like we quarterly have interior designers and architects interviews. We do a monthly deep interview with a design firm because we're trying to, you're asking us what's next, but our ear is to the industry trying to figure out, are there some unmet needs out there that maybe people don't even know they want? And I think humans are social creatures. We're pack animals.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think it's too bold to say we're going to see this kind of return to togetherness. I mean, look at NeoCon this year compared to last year.
Yeah.
Right? There's we crave being together, even if we want to kind of go back into our little hidey holes and do some head down work sometimes, but we need moments to be together, and so we're going to need spaces that facilitate that.
I think that's great.
And on these, humans are curious, very curious. So I've always found that the best part of our job is to, listen to the client needs and always be there to, fuel in a way their curiosity, and also to help them to express that curiosity in whichever type of form that might be. Oftentimes, in terms of bold statements and incredible architectural pieces and surfaces that will reflect their personalities, and so I think that's really why we're there, and so we just want to help them to make their job in the best possible way.
That's great. I love that. All right, guys, any final closing thoughts on Carnegie, on your companies, on anything you want to leave the people with in general?
I'd say, just keep a lookout for what's next. I mean, Giulio and I are always working on new things, and I think, like most creatives, we're probably our own biggest critics because we're always trying to push ourselves, right, and be inspired by each other, and I just probably like our clients are probably the same way. As an interior designer and architect, you're always trying to push yourself. So come play in a sandbox with us.
I love that. That's great.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I mean, we're here at NeoCon, so it's a week full of novelties, and let's see how that will reflect in the next product development.
Yeah.
The landscape is really changing. It's very exciting. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you guys so much. That was wonderful. We really appreciate it. So, and where is the showroom in case we need to find you guys?
On the 10th floor of the Mart here.
Okay.
Come to the Carnegie showroom, and you could see that whole portfolio approach: Carnegie's products, Kirei's products, and Woodskin's products.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.